Hi, everybody. Welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. I got an email from Moria Huff, subject line, visitation. Washington demands temple ordinances. And that is in reference to George Washington. And I've known about this my entire life. And it's weird because I've been collecting all these visions and visitations on my spreadsheet, but this hasn't even crossed my mind. So I appreciate the email. Okay. Hi, Jared. Thank you for all you do. I love both you and Christian Fire Poppy. Yeah, everybody make sure subscribe to Christian Fire Poppy. I came across this quote after watching Fire Poppy's last video on Ezra's Eagle. I was researching Ezra Taft Benson and all the talks he has given on the United States. He quoted Wilford Woodruff in a talk he gave at BYU titled God's Hand in Our Nation's History on March 28th, 1977. And then she provides the quote, but we're going to go directly to the original source for that. And then she finishes the email. Thanks again for your hard work. I love your sense of humor and positive outlook despite the doom and gloom. My husband makes fun of me because I literally laugh out loud to all your jokes. Haha. And that makes me laugh out loud at you laughing out loud at my jokes. Now are you laughing because I'm laughing out loud at you laughing out loud at me? Anyways, please keep up the hard work because I'm sure it is hard. Yes, it is. It is hard, but that's what gives this channel value, I think. But it is also rewarding, especially for us as your audience. Ha, laugh out loud in all caps. Okay, so you can find President Ezra Taft Benson's talk here at BYU Speeches. This was a devotional. And then I have the part highlighted where he talks about Wilford Woodruff's vision. And he puts the original source, which is conference report. So this is the April 1898 General Conference. And for that, we're going to go to Wilford Woodruff papers. Before we do that, here's the update on the Flood the Earth Challenge. It's the first update since we hit the goal of 10,000. So we've now hit the goal of 1,000 people that have joined the challenge and then 10,000 copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared. So now we're trying to get to 5,000 people that have participated and 50,000 copies of the Book of Mormon that have been shared. And it's just a matter of time. If we just keep at it, we will get there. Remember, the easiest way to share the Book of Mormon is with the Gospel Library app. Go to Scriptures. You'll see a button that says Share for sharing the Book of Mormon app. And then you can text it or email it or send a direct message. Once you do, just let me know in the comments or send me an email. Make sure to include #flood. And then I'll keep track of you over here. And with each time that you share the Book of Mormon, I'll keep you up to date with where you're at. So I'll track that for you. Okay, so keep up the good work, everybody. If you go to wilfordwoodruffpapers.org, they have a timeline of his life. And one of the entries is this. Wilford's vision of signers of Declaration of Independence, proxy baptisms for 100 eminent men and 68 eminent women under Wilford's direction. And this was August 19th through 21st, 1877. Okay, so let's go there. And one thing that I really like is situations like this where I'll be looking for something specific, but there's something else, like some other gem in the text. So I want to do this in order. So we're going to cover this hidden gem that I didn't know about first. And I was so happy to find this. So just a little tangent, okay? Okay. The last speech that Joseph Smith ever made to the Quorum of the Apostles was in a building in Nauvoo. And it was such a speech as I never heard from mortal man before or since. I'm actually going to highlight that. I should have highlighted that before. Keep that in mind. Such a speech as I never heard from mortal man before or since. Remember that. He was clothed upon with the Spirit and power of God. His face was clear as amber. The room was filled as with consuming fire. So this is the part right here. I've added this, what we're reading right now, to my spreadsheet. The spreadsheet called Quotes. the spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z, and it's currently on row 189. The topic is halos. Halos, light, shining. Because I'm saving this because we have already come across some very similar accounts to this. Okay, so his face was clear as amber. The room was filled as with consuming fire. And you guys, I think that that's literal. That his face, it's not just like a poetic way of speaking, that Joseph Smith's face was actually clear and looked like amber. I'll show you why in just a minute. He stood 3 hours upon his feet, said he, quote, "You apostles of the Lamb of God have been chosen to carry out the purposes of the Lord on the earth. Now I have received as the prophet, seer, and revelator, standing at the head of this dispensation, every key, every ordinance, every principle, and every priesthood that belongs to the last dispensation and fullness of times. And I have sealed all these things upon your heads. Now, you apostles, if you do not rise up and bear off this kingdom, as I have given it to you, you will be damned." So, no pressure there. Okay, but this reminded me of a couple things. So let's go back to this spreadsheet, quotes A through Z. And here's another story about Joseph Smith, as told by Mary Elizabeth Rollins Leitner. You learn all about her when you go to the Independence Visitor Center in Independence, Missouri, because she's one of the ones that saved the manuscripts for Doctrine and Covenants. Everybody knows that story. There's the two girls. They save the manuscripts. They go run into a cornfield and stay hidden from an angry mob that would have destroyed those manuscripts. Okay, so the content. Okay, so one of the two sisters that saved the printed pages of the Book of Commandments, Doctrine and Covenants, sealed to Joseph Smith in 1842. She was 87 years old at the time of this talk. Okay, so she talks about the fact that this was the first time that Joseph Smith had held a meeting in Kirtland, Ohio. The Smith family was there and a couple others. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to read this part. Okay, they sang and prayed. Joseph got up and began to speak to us. As he began to speak very solemnly and earnestly, all at once his countenance changed and he stood mute. Those who looked at him that day said there was a searchlight within him over every part of his body. I never saw anything like it on the whole earth. I could not take my eyes off him. He got so white that anyone who saw him would have thought he was transparent. Okay, again, if you think that that's just like poetic language, look what she says next. I remember I thought I could almost see the bones through the flesh. I've been through many changes since, but that is photographed on my brain. I shall remember it and see it in my mind's eye as long as I remain upon the earth. Okay, so it's things like this that makes me think that when Wilford Woodruff said that last meeting that he had with the apostles before his martyrdom, that he looked like amber, I think that was literal based on this. And look what she says at the end. She says, I never took my eyes off his countenance. Then he knelt down and prayed. I never heard anything like it before or since. That's like what we just read from Wilford Woodruff. Clear as amber. The room was filled with consuming fire. And he says, and it was such a speech as I never heard from mortal man before or since. So it seems like something similar is going on there. I do have a couple other interesting quotes. This one is from the Nauvoo Temple. There was a meeting of some of the brethren. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but it says, a light was seen flickering over Brother Anderson's head while relating his vision. Phineas Richards' face shone with great brightness. And then at the dedication of the Manti, Utah Temple, this is found in Millennial Star, June 25th, 1888, pages 404 to 405. Toward the end of this article, it says, some of the saints saw the spirits of Presidents Young and Taylor, J.M. Grant, and others in the temple. And the eyes of some of the speakers, the heads of some of the speakers were surrounded by a halo of heavenly light during the services. And then there was just one more thing. This is from my spreadsheet called Quotes, Visions, and Visitations. This took place on March 18th, 1833. The heavenly visitors were God the Father, Jesus Christ, and angels. This was a visitation, and those being visited was Joseph Smith, Frederick G. Williams, Sidney Rigdon, Zebedee Coltrane, Reynolds Cahoon, and others that were attending the School of the Prophets. The description, God the Father and Jesus Christ appear at the School of the Prophets. Reynolds Cahoon almost dies. Okay, this is related by President Zebedee Coltrane, Presidency of the 70. At one of these meetings after the organization of the school on the 23rd of January, 1833, so that's the date that the school was organized, not when this happened. When we were all together, Joseph having given instructions, and while engaged in silent prayer, kneeling, with our hands uplifted, each one praying in silence, no one whispered above his breath. A personage walked through the room from east to west, and Joseph asked if we saw him. I saw him, and suppose the others did, and Joseph answered, that is Jesus, the Son of God, our elder brother. Afterwards, Joseph told us to resume our former position in prayer, which we did. Another personage came through. He was surrounded as with a flame of fire. He, Brother Coltrane, experienced a sensation that it might destroy the tabernacle, as it was of consuming fire of great brightness. The prophet Joseph said this was the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. I saw him. When asked about what kind of clothing the Father had on, Brother Coltrane said, I did not discover his clothing, for he was surrounded as with a flame of fire, which was so brilliant that I could not discover anything else but his person. I saw his hands, his legs, his feet, his eyes, nose, mouth, head, and body in the shape and form of a perfect man. He sat in a chair as a man would sit in a chair, but his appearance was so grand and overwhelming that it seemed I should melt down at his presence. And the sensation was so powerful that it thrilled through my whole system, and I felt it in the marrow of my bones. The prophet Joseph said, Brethren, now you are prepared to be the apostles of Jesus Christ, for you have seen both the Father and the Son, and know that they exist, and that they are two separate personages. This appearance occurred about 2 or 3 weeks after the opening of the school. After the Father had passed through, Joseph told us to again take our positions in prayer. We did so, and in a very short time he drew our attention and said to us that Brother Reynolds Cahoon was about to leave us, and told us to look at him. He, Brother Cahoon, was on his knees, and his arms were extended, his hands and wrists, head, face, and neck, down to his shoulders, listen to this, were as a piece of amber, clear and transparent, his blood having apparently left his veins. Upon the attention of the brethren being thus called to Brother Cahoon, the change seemed to pass away, and Joseph said that in a few minutes more, Brother Cahoon would have left us, but he came to himself again. So that's why I'm excited about this quote, because here's another time when, somebody, in this case, Joseph Smith, is being described as having a change come upon him, and that he's clear and like amber. So, and then he says that he's never heard anything like it before or since. So I think that's really neat. Okay, so I've added that to my spreadsheet. Now let's move on to this vision of President Wilford Woodruff. Later on in his talk, he says, another thing I'm going to say here, because I have a right to say it, every one of those men that signed the Declaration of Independence with General Washington called upon me as an apostle of the Lord Jesus Christ in the temple at St. George 2 consecutive nights. and demanded at my hands that I should go forth and attend to the ordinances of the house of God for them. Men are here, I believe, that know of this. Brother J.D.T. McAllister, David H. Cannon, and James G. Bleak. Brother McAllister baptized me for all those men, and then I told those brethren that it was their duty to go into the temple and labor until they had got endowments for all of them. They did it. Would those spirits have called upon me as an elder in Israel to perform that work if they had not been noble spirits before God? They would not. I just want to pause right here. I think that we should really think about this. If you're critical of the founding fathers, the signers of the Declaration of Independence, and I mean, he's only mentioning the Declaration of Independence, but maybe there's others that were included. I don't know. But when we think about the founding fathers, there's this whole thing right now where, this like secular leftist approach to education is to taint our history, to make it look like everything in the past was bad and wrong, and these were actually bad men, that we shouldn't be proud of them, things like that. And so I just want to point this out. Here they are. I guess they were permitted to come to Wilford Woodruff in the St. George Temple 2 nights in a row, asking him to do their work. I don't think the Lord would allow them to do that if they weren't worthy. And that's basically what he's saying here. Okay. And then he says, I bear this testimony because it is true. The Spirit of God bore record to myself and the brethren while we were laboring in that way. There's also this. So that was conference report. Now we're looking at his journal. Journal January 1st, 1873 to February 7th, 1880. And he doesn't give a whole lot of details here, but it is kind of interesting to read this. Okay, so this is for August 19th, 1877. And by the way, the timing is really interesting. You'll see why in just a minute. Maybe some of you already realize. But, okay, I spent the evening in preparing a list of the noted men of the 17th century and 18th, including the signers of the Declaration of Independence and presidents of the United States, for baptism on Tuesday, the 21st, August 1877. Okay, and then let's go to the next page. And you can see here to the left the original, journal entry and all the names. He made like a table and listed all the names. At this part of the top, he says, I, Wilford Woodruff, went to the temple of the Lord this morning and was baptized for 100 persons who were dead, including the signers of the Declaration of Independence, all except John Hancock and William Floyd. I was baptized for the following names. Okay. And in case you're wondering what these little drawings are, if you're new to the channel or you're just not familiar, Wilford Woodruff had these little like symbols to help him keep everything organized. Each one had a different meaning. So this one is a crown, and it means activities requiring executive authority. And then the picture of crossed keys, meaning priesthood ordinances. So I think that was neat. That was his system of organizing things, and it made sense to him. Okay, so you have all these names. And then on the next page, again, you have all these names. And then on the page after that, August 21st, 1877, when Brother McAllister had baptized me for the 100 names, I baptized him for 21, including General Washington and his forefathers and all the presidents of the United States that were not in my list except Buchanan, Van Buren, and Grant. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just like he didn't personally get to them or if they were like excluded for some reason. I don't know. If you know better, put it in the comments below or send me an email and I'll take a look. All right, but continuing, it was a very interesting day. I felt thankful that we had the privilege and the power to administer for the worthy dead, especially for the signers of the Declaration of Independence, that inasmuch as they had laid the foundation of our government, that we could do as much for them as they had done for us. Sister Lucy Bigelow Young went forth into the font and was baptized for Martha Washington and her family and 70 of the eminent women of the world. I called upon all the brethren and sisters who were present to assist in getting endowments for those that we had been baptized for that day. So they were being given like priority service. Okay, later on, this is August 22nd. 22, we gave endowments to 88, ordained 2 high priests for George Washington and John Wesley, and 4 elders, total ordained 40. Wilford Woodruff sealed 9 couple and 7 children to their parents. D.H. Cannon sealed 26 couple. It's really interesting that this happened. Like, could you imagine President Nelson going to the temple and doing like special work for, I don't know, like British royalty or presidents, prime ministers of other nations from the past? Like, it's an interesting thing to witness and to see all these details. Okay, August 23rd, Wilford Woodruff ordained Brother Ellis Sanders a high priest for Benjamin Franklin and got endowments for him. Also ordained 6 elders. We gave 1,369 endowments. Oh, sorry, that's crossed out. 139 endowments, ordained 60. Wilford Woodruff sealed 3 couple. J. McAllister 18. D.H. Cannon 3. Okay. The next day, 24 gave endowments to 130. Wilford Woodruff ordained. And then it has, okay. And then we'll go to the next page. August 24th, 2 high priests, one for Christopher Columbus. So we have, I don't think I ever knew that. I guess it doesn't surprise me, but I guess I didn't know until now that they did it for Christopher Columbus as well. That's another figure that's constantly being attacked nowadays, and is, there's all this controversy around the beginning of our nation, the United States. Okay, I'll pass on from that. Okay, now look at this. So this is the interesting part with the timing. Okay, so this is just a few days after all this just took place for the founding fathers and Columbus and others. August 27th, 1877, a Monday. Here's a symbol that I have not seen up until this point in his journals. It's an arrow, and the meaning is sickness, distress, aggression, death. So not good. I spent the day in St. George. In the evening, I received a telegram saying President Young was very sick and that all the quorums would meet in Salt Lake City at 8 o'clock to pray for him and wish the people of St. George to join at that hour. I notified all the people that I could to join in prayer, which we did through the city as far as we could. Okay. The next day, the 28th, excuse me, I got a telegram from President Young. I got telegram that President Young was very low. I gathered together some 100 elders and 30 women, and we went into the temple and clothed ourselves in the temple clothing and formed our prayer circles and prayed throughout the day and night until 2 o'clock in the morning when we were all assembled together and had prayers together and expressed our feelings upon the situation of President Young. We then adjourned until 7 o'clock. Okay, and here's the last one. August 29th, 1877. We met in prayer circles at 7 o'clock and continued to pray through the day. I received telegrams through the day every half hour, which I communicated to all the prayer circles as they came up to 4 o'clock when I received a telegram that he died. At 4 o'clock, August 29th, 1877, I dismissed all the prayer circle. So I don't know if there's like something to that, that this like kind of major event, the temple work for the founding fathers, it was done just before President Brigham Young passed away, just like within the week before. But I think that's interesting to note. So, okay, so this is my newest entry on my spreadsheet. If you go to the very bottom of the spreadsheet, I have my tally by decade of all these accounts that I've collected so far. These are accounts that have to do with like general authorities of the church. So it's not just like random people. It's like church related stuff, like more like official accounts. Some of them I don't know exactly when they took place. So that's why I have this for unknown, but the rest of them are by decade. And so now I have 72 on my spreadsheet. And for the 1870s, this is now my second for the 1870s. I'm sure that there's so much more out there. Some of you have sent me emails and I'm working on it. I'm trying to get to those, but I see no signs of this stopping. There's probably so many more accounts, and it kind of blows my mind just how much contact we have had from those on the other side of the veil and elsewhere. It's crazy. All right, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.